Hello there, and welcome back to Science for Sleep. Tonight we are going to explore something that is happening to almost everyone, quietly, invisibly, and with consequences that reach into every corner of health and well-being. We are going to talk about deep sleep. Not sleep in the general sense, not the experience of lying down and closing your eyes and drifting away. We are going to talk about a specific, extraordinary phase of sleep that most people know almost nothing about. A phase so biologically essential that when it is lost, even slightly, the effects ripple through the brain and the body in ways that science is only beginning to fully understand. Most people, when they think about sleep, think about it as one thing. You are awake, and then you are asleep. The transition is familiar. The experience, from the inside, feels largely continuous. You close your eyes, time passes. You open them again. But this picture is radically incomplete. Sleep is not one thing. It is a sequence of distinct and carefully orchestrated stages, each one serving a different biological purpose, each one essential in its own way. And among these stages, one stands apart. One is deeper, slower, and more biologically powerful than any other. One is the stage that determines, more than any other, whether your brain will be clean or toxic, whether your memories will consolidate or dissolve, whether your body will repair itself or carry its damage into tomorrow. That stage is called slow wave sleep or deep sleep. And tonight, we are going to explore it in every detail. Tonight, where are you listening from? Is the room dark? Is your breathing already beginning to slow? Then you are already moving toward it. The deep is already waiting. So settle in. Let your body grow heavy. Let the noise of the day dissolve. And let's explore together the most powerful and the most overlooked stage of the sleeping brain. Let's begin. Every night, while you are asleep, your brain runs a program. It does not run it randomly. It does not improvise. It follows a precise and ancient sequence, cycling through distinct stages of sleep in a pattern that has been refined over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Understanding this sequence is the foundation of understanding deep sleep. Sleep scientists divide sleep into two broad categories: REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the stage most associated with vivid dreaming, and non-REM sleep, which is itself divided into three stages of increasing depth. Together, these stages cycle through the night in roughly 90-minute intervals, repeating 4 to 6 times between when you fall asleep and when you wake. The first stage of non-REM sleep, called N1, is the lightest. It is the threshold, the transition between wakefulness and sleep. Muscles relax. The eyes move slowly beneath closed lids. The brain's electrical activity slows from the fast, irregular waves of waking to a more rhythmic pattern. In this stage, you can be woken by a gentle sound and may not even realize you are asleep. Some people experience a sudden jerk of the body, called a hypnic jerk, at this threshold. A brief muscular contraction that research suggests may be a remnant of an ancestral reflex. A primate asleep in a tree, startling awake at the first sensation of falling. The second stage, N2, is deeper, genuine sleep, from which waking requires more effort. The brain produces distinctive electrical patterns during this stage. Sleep spindles, brief bursts of high-frequency activity that appear on an EEG like tiny spirals, occur hundreds of times each night. They are now understood to play a critical role in memory consolidation, the process by which the day's experiences are transferred from short-term to long-term storage. Key complexes, large, sharp waves that appear in response to external sounds, are the brain's way of evaluating disturbances during sleep and making the decision, most of the time quietly and without waking you, that they do not require attention. And then there is N3. N3 is deep sleep, slow wave sleep, the stage characterized by the slowest and highest amplitude brainwaves the sleeping brain produces, called delta waves. Long, sweeping oscillations that move through the brain like tides, 1 to 4 cycles per second. Rhythmic, powerful, and associated with a depth of biological restoration that no other sleep stage can match. In deep sleep, the threshold for waking is at its highest. External sounds that would rouse you from lighter stages go unnoticed. The body is still. The muscles are relaxed to a degree approaching paralysis. Breathing is slow and regular. Heart rate and blood pressure are at their lowest point of the entire 24-hour cycle. The brain has withdrawn from the sensory world almost entirely.
From the outside, a person in deep sleep looks profoundly inert. From the inside, they are experiencing nothing. No dreams, no awareness, no sense of time passing. Deep sleep is the closest the living brain comes to pure rest. And yet, at the level of biology, the sleeping body in deep sleep is working harder than at almost any other time. In 2013, a team of researchers at the University of Rochester published a paper that changed how scientists thought about why we sleep at all. The paper described the discovery of a waste clearance system in the brain, a system that had somehow gone unnoticed for the entire history of neuroscience, a system so important that its absence appears to contribute to some of the most devastating neurological diseases known to medicine. The body has a lymphatic system, a network of vessels and tissues that drain waste products from cells throughout the body, transporting them to organs where they are broken down and eliminated. For decades, scientists knew that the brain, despite being the most metabolically active organ in the body, appeared to lack a lymphatic system of its own. Waste products generated by neural activity seemed to have no clear route out. The 2013 paper solved this mystery. The research team, led by Dr. Maiken Nedergaard, discovered that the brain has its own dedicated waste clearance system, which they named the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system uses the channels that surround blood vessels in the brain as a kind of plumbing. Cerebrospinal fluid flows along these channels, flushing through brain tissue and carrying away metabolic waste products. During wakefulness, brain cells are relatively tightly packed. During sleep, and particularly during deep sleep, the cells shrink by up to 60%. This dramatic reduction in cell size opens up the spaces between cells, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow through the brain tissue far more efficiently. The glymphatic system is approximately 10 times more active during sleep than during wakefulness, and among the waste products it clears is beta-amyloid, a protein fragment that is produced as a normal byproduct of neural activity. During wakefulness, it accumulates in the spaces between brain cells. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system flushes it away. In healthy sleep, this clearance is approximately complete each night. When sleep is insufficient or disrupted, particularly when deep sleep is reduced, the clearance is incomplete. Beta-amyloid accumulates.
Over years and decades, this accumulation forms the plaques that are the defining pathological feature of Alzheimer's disease. A single night of poor sleep, studies have shown, results in a measurable increase in beta-amyloid accumulation in the brain. This increase is detectable with brain imaging the following morning. Every night of inadequate deep sleep is a night in which the brain's waste accumulates beyond what the following night's clearance can fully compensate for. Memory is not a simple recording, it is a process. When you learn something during the day, the experience is initially encoded in a structure called the hippocampus. The hippocampus sits deep within the temporal lobe and functions as a kind of temporary holding space for new information. It can store a relatively small amount of information, and it is not designed for permanent retention. During sleep, and particularly during deep sleep, the hippocampus replays the day's experiences, transferring selected memories to the neocortex for long-term storage. This transfer, called memory consolidation, is one of the most important things that happens while you sleep, and it is heavily dependent on the slow oscillations of deep sleep. The mechanism involves a conversation between brain regions. During deep sleep, the hippocampus generates sharp wave ripples, brief bursts of neural activity that carry the day's memories. These ripples are synchronized with the sleep spindles of the cortex and with the slow oscillations of deep sleep in a precisely timed dialogue. The slow oscillation creates a window of enhanced cortical excitability. The spindle fires within that window, and the hippocampal ripple delivers its payload. This triple synchrony occurs hundreds of times each night. Each occurrence transfers a fragment of memory from the hippocampus to the neocortex. By morning, what was a fragile, recently formed memory has been integrated into the broader fabric of long-term knowledge.
Studies have demonstrated this process with elegant clarity. Subjects trained on a new task and then allowed to sleep showed dramatically better performance the following morning than subjects trained on the same task and kept awake. This improvement reflects actual strengthening of the neural pathways associated with the new learning, a strengthening that occurs specifically during the slow oscillations of deep sleep. Sleep does not simply preserve memories, it improves them. The connections have been made in the dark. Approximately 2 hours after the onset of sleep, when the brain is descending into its deepest slow-wave sleep of the night, the pituitary gland releases a pulse of growth hormone into the bloodstream. This pulse is the largest and most significant release of growth hormone in the entire 24-hour cycle. Muscle tissue damaged by exercise is repaired under its influence. Bone density is maintained. Fat metabolism is regulated. The immune system's repair and surveillance functions are supported. The relationship between deep sleep and growth hormone release is so tight that without deep sleep, the pulse does not occur with its normal magnitude. The body's nightly maintenance program runs on a reduced budget. This relationship has significant implications for physical performance and recovery. The repair and adaptation that follow intense physical training occur primarily during deep sleep, not during the session itself. A training session creates the stimulus for adaptation. Deep sleep is where the adaptation actually happens. One of the most consistent findings in sleep research is that the amount of deep sleep a person gets decreases significantly across the lifespan. Young adults spend approximately 20 to 25% of their total sleep time in deep sleep. By the age of 60, this proportion has fallen to less than 10%. By 80, some individuals have almost no measurable deep sleep at all. This age-related loss of deep sleep is associated with reduced muscle mass, impaired immune function, slower wound healing, increased inflammation, greater accumulation of beta-amyloid, and poorer memory consolidation. The loss of deep sleep is not simply a symptom of aging. Accumulating evidence suggests it may be one of its drivers. Deep sleep is the most fragile stage of sleep. It is the first to suffer when sleep is insufficient and the last to be recovered when sleep is restored.
Alcohol is among the most common and most damaging disruptions to deep sleep. Because alcohol has sedating properties, many people believe it helps them sleep. It does assist the initial transition to sleep, but alcohol fundamentally alters sleep architecture in ways that significantly reduce deep sleep. As alcohol is metabolized during the night, the brain rebounds from its sedating effects, producing fragmented, lighter sleep in the second half of the night, precisely when deep sleep would normally dominate. Temperature is among the most powerful regulators of deep sleep. The brain's initiation of deep sleep is tightly coupled to the nightly decline in core body temperature. A bedroom that is too warm disrupts this process, reducing both the quantity and quality of deep sleep. Sleep scientists consistently identify temperatures between 16 and 19 degrees Celsius as optimal for most adults. Light, particularly blue wavelength light, suppresses melatonin production and delays the timing of deep sleep. The screens we carry into the bedroom deliver precisely the wavelength of light most effective at disrupting this process. Stress and elevated cortisol are physiologically incompatible with deep sleep. Cortisol suppresses the amplitude of slow oscillations and fragments the architecture of deep sleep. Insufficient deep sleep impairs emotional regulation and stress resilience. Elevated stress suppresses deep sleep. The two reinforce each other in a downward spiral that can be very difficult to interrupt. Caffeine blocks the action of adenosine in the brain. Adenosine is the chemical that accumulates during wakefulness and creates the biological drive to sleep. Caffeine does not remove the accumulated adenosine, it merely blocks the receptors that detect it. The sleep that follows caffeine consumption is measurably less restorative than sleep without prior caffeine, with reduced deep sleep amplitude and less effective memory consolidation. In 2020, researchers at ETH Zurich published a remarkable series of experiments demonstrating that the quality of deep sleep could be enhanced by delivering sounds precisely synchronized with its slow oscillations. The brain's slow oscillations during deep sleep occur at a frequency of approximately half a cycle per second. Each oscillation has two phases: an up state in which neurons throughout the brain fire in synchrony, and a down state in which they fall into near silence. The ETH Zurich researchers discovered that delivering brief auditory stimuli, clicks or tones, precisely timed to coincide with the up state of the slow oscillation had the effect of reinforcing and amplifying the wave. And with stronger slow oscillations came improved memory consolidation, measurable in tests administered the following morning. Subsequent research has explored various forms of non-invasive brain stimulation during deep sleep, from acoustic stimulation to gentle electrical stimulation applied through electrodes on the scalp. Early results in older adults suggest that these approaches can partially restore some of the deep sleep characteristics present in younger brains. Deep sleep does not simply end, it transitions. In the first half of the night, the sleep cycle is dominated by deep, slow-wave sleep. As the night progresses, this balance shifts. Deep sleep periods grow shorter, REM periods grow longer. By the final cycles of the night, deep sleep may be almost absent, replaced by extended REM sleep that can last 45 minutes to an hour. This distribution reflects the different biological functions these stages serve. The brain front-loads deep sleep because its functions are urgent. The clearance of metabolic waste, the release of growth hormone, and the initial stages of memory consolidation cannot wait. If you go to bed late and sleep fewer hours, you truncate the end of the night, losing predominantly REM sleep. But if your sleep is fragmented throughout the night, or if alcohol or stress or temperature disrupts the early cycles, it is deep sleep that suffers most, because it is concentrated at the beginning of the night when disruption is most likely. This means that the most commonly disrupted aspect of sleep is also the most biologically precious. The evidence for what protects and enhances deep sleep converges on a set of principles that are relatively simple to understand and more difficult to consistently practice. consistency of sleep and wake times is the most fundamental. When sleep and wake times are consistent, the transitions into and out of deep sleep become more reliable and more efficient. Exercise, particularly vigorous aerobic exercise, consistently increases the proportion of deep sleep on the nights following the exercise. The timing matters. Exercise early in the day or in the afternoon produces the most consistent improvements in deep sleep without delaying sleep onset. Alcohol avoidance in the hours before sleep is one of the most immediately effective interventions for improving deep sleep quality. Even moderate amounts of alcohol consumed in the evening measurably reduce slow-wave sleep amplitude and duration. Evening light management, particularly limiting blue light exposure in the 2 hours before bed, protects melatonin production and supports the circadian timing of deep sleep. And perhaps the most overlooked factor is stress management in the evening hours. Meditation, slow breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and other techniques that lower cortisol can meaningfully improve deep sleep in people whose stress levels chronically disrupted. Researchers are exploring the potential of pharmacological agents that specifically enhance slow-wave sleep, not by sedating the brain as conventional sleep medications do, but by selectively boosting the neural mechanisms that generate and maintain slow oscillations. The connection between deep sleep and immune function is an area of growing research attention. The cytokines that coordinate immune responses are produced in greater quantities during deep sleep. Immune memory appears to be consolidated during sleep, ways that parallel the consolidation of cognitive memory. People who sleep poorly before or after vaccination show reduced antibody responses compared to those who sleep well. The relationship between deep sleep and psychiatric conditions is being intensively investigated. Disruptions of slow-wave sleep are among the earliest and most consistent findings in depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and anxiety disorders. Perhaps the most exciting frontier involves the growing understanding of how the slow oscillations of deep sleep coordinate activity across brain regions. The slow oscillation is a global phenomenon, a wave of synchronized activity that sweeps through the cortex and coordinates with deep brain structures in ways that appear essential for the brain's capacity to update itself, to integrate new information with existing knowledge, and to maintain the neural architecture that underlies personality, cognition, and memory. Deep sleep may be the mechanism through which the brain maintains its own structure over time. Without the regular passage of slow waves through the cortex each night, the brain may slowly lose the coherence and integrity that makes it, in the fullest sense, itself. There is something remarkable about the fact that the most restorative thing the brain does happens in the stage when it is least conscious. Deep sleep is, by definition, the stage furthest from awareness. The sleeper does not know they are there. They have no experience of the slow waves moving through their cortex, no awareness of the glymphatic fluid flushing through their brain tissue, no sense of the memories consolidating, the growth hormone pulsing, the immune system reinforcing its records of the day. From the inside, deep sleep is nothing, and yet it is everything. It is the foundation on which all other sleep stages are built. It is the first requirement of a night that truly restores. It is the stage whose loss is most consequential, whose disruption reverberates most broadly through every system the sleeping body maintains. The brain you wake with is different from the brain you fell asleep in ways that depend enormously on how much slow-wave sleep occurred in the hours between. The memories you will carry tomorrow, the clarity with which you will think, the stability with which you will feel, the efficiency with which your immune system will operate, the speed with which your tissues will repair. All of this was shaped in the dark, in silence, in the slow and powerful waves of the deepest sleep. You did not know any of it was happening. That is precisely the point.
Those were 100 facts about deep sleep. And now the words are growing softer, and the room is growing stiller. And something that has nothing to do with thinking is beginning to take over. The slow waves are waiting. They are always waiting. Right now, as your breathing slows and your muscles settle, and the weight of the day finally finds somewhere to rest, the ancient program is beginning. The cells are preparing to shrink. The glymphatic fluid is preparing to flow. The hippocampus is preparing to replay the day and send what matters to be kept somewhere safe. You do not have to do anything to make this happen. You never have. The deep is not somewhere you have to find. It is somewhere you have to allow. It comes when the body is still and the mind is quiet, and the room is cool and dark, and the hours are long enough. Tonight, let them be long enough. Let your breathing go. Let the slow waves come. Science for Sleep will be here when you return.